Many viewers may be familiar with Dr. Jordan Peterson, the Canadian professor who has grown famous for taking a vigorous and articulate stance against the pressures of the so-called social justice movements. Peterson has since become a spokesperson for many who have felt silenced by the cancellation attempts of the illiberal left. Instilling fear of reprisal has been the standard tool of the far left, to try and ensure that no one expresses a perspective that is contrary to their own. Yet Peterson, with great skill, verbally mobilized logic and reason to assail the leftists with the thing they fear the most: truth. The tools of the many illiberal social justice movements, ranging from green extremists to indigenous activists, and those forcing a new gender ideology on societies, are basic. In fact, they are the tools of their mentor, Karl Marx. They develop a narrative that describes what is, in their view, a problem in society, often distorting historical reality to enhance their point, and appeal to those who are not fully aware of historic or scientific facts on the matter. Their tactics involve name-calling and attempts to shame, as it's described in our video, Inquisition and Activism. They employ any method that will destroy in the public mind the reputation of one who opposes their objectives or message. A good example of creating a distortion of history to make a point is the effort of modern leftist activists to blame the institution of slavery on Europeans, especially the British. All knowledgeable historians know that slavery has been practiced by virtually all cultures and races throughout the many thousands of years of recorded human history. What is missing in the activist message is that the British Empire was the first major entity to severely restrict slavery and then totally abolish it in their territories. It was William Wilberforce who convinced the British Parliament to abolish the slave trade in the British Empire in 1807. Later, at the Congress of Vienna, the Empire pressured several European nations to abolish their slave trade. The respected history website, Historic UK, records, at the Treaty of Vienna of June 9, 1815, 9 days before the Battle of Waterloo, the Foreign Secretary, Viscount Castlereagh, put pressure on the Allies, France, Spain, and Portugal, the main slave-buying countries, to abolish their slave trade. At Britain's insistence, the treaty also included a clause condemning the slave trade, the first time a declaration of what we now know as human rights had appeared in any international treaty. Britain also petitioned the Pope for support. After sustained campaigning in Britain, the Slavery Abolition Act came into force in 1834 and finally banned slavery throughout the empire. In order to free some 800,000 slaves, Parliament paid a huge £20 million, a third of the Treasury's annual income at the time, in compensation to slave owners in the Caribbean, South Africa, and Canada. And in 1843, Britons were forbidden to own slaves anywhere in the world. Parliament even went as far as compensating Spain and Portugal for ending the trafficking of slaves. In 1834, the British Empire was the first large entity to abolish slavery entirely throughout its vast territories. The empire then inserted itself into Africa in an effort to control or limit the slave trade of Central Africans being conducted by Muslim slave traders. It was the British Empire that led the way to end slavery as an accepted norm in societies. Yet this truth, which is recorded in history and legislation, is denied, and a narrative that is totally false is now taught in universities and schools across North America and Britain. Today, people are motivated by a desire to be seen as accepting of a popular narrative, even if it is the opposite to reality. This tendency was addressed in a 2016 BBC publication entitled, "Why People Get More Stupid in a Crowd." The wisdom of crowds doesn't always apply. Sometimes groupthink nudges people to make wrong-headed decisions. People frequently adopt the view of the majority even when it is obviously wrong, and even when they have to deny their own senses. In our age, we have a population that thinks it's well-educated, but in fact is knowledge-poor compared to most previous generations, thanks to a corrupted public education system and internet information sharing that provides only a tweet of information and no context or depth. What motivates our world? It seems it is a desire to fit in with the crowd and its popular beliefs, even if those popular beliefs are wrong. This is what leads to true enslavement of the mind. It also leads to the downfall of civilizations and the rising of governments that are oppressive and even brutal to those who still dare to reason. What motivates you? Do you question what you hear? Do you seek to know truth? Or are you afraid of the name-calling of the far-left activists who seem to want to change the centuries of order in which we have prospered as a people? Before you acquiesce to the loss of centuries of tradition and law, take a look at our video, The Demise of Law. You will find the link in the description below.
If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And for more content like this, please visit our website at tomorrowsworldviewpoint.org.